Very good. Here we go. From the bottom. Dear Ajahn, when I am reciting Namo Buddhaya in my mind, no matter how much I close the gaps, thoughts still come up in the background. And when I carry on, after a while, the thoughts take over and Namo Buddhaya drops to the background. What should I do in this case? That we'll try something different. So with thoughts and thinking, that is just one possible way of dealing with the thoughts. But the other way of dealing with the thoughts is, just put some space between you and the thoughts. The old simile of the hand, how big is my hand? It's right up here. It's so close to me, I'm obsessed with it. That's all I can see, just my hand. So, put your hand where it belongs, at the end of the arm. The hand hasn't shrunk in size, but because I've got perspective, I can see much more than just the hand. I can see what's around the hand. So a lot of time with thoughts, one of the first things to do is get some perspective on it. Don't put it right up here and it's a big problem. Put them a distance from you. They're just thoughts, that's all. An example I gave today, the thoughts are like the clouds in the sky, but if that's all you see, the clouds, you think that's all the sky's made up of, clouds. But there's a big sky there as well. So you see that those clouds are just what passes through the sky. They're not really that important, they pass away, they're not important. The same with the thoughts. You will find that if you get perspective, they're just thoughts, that's all. And between those thoughts, there always must be some sky, some spaces between them. And sometimes you have these beautiful days where there's no clouds at all in the sky. Or like, I'm not quite sure what it's like tonight, maybe the stars are out, I'm not quite sure, but apparently the weather is going to get more clear in the next few days. So, you can see a sky without any clouds, like a mind without any thoughts. So that's one of the things to do, is to get perspective on them. It's just thoughts, they're not important. So you take away their importance, and you just get perspective on them. And then the other thing you do with thinking is just don't get entangled in them. They're not important. So what have you got? You've got thoughts about the past. Obviously, what you thought happened didn't happen at all. Have you ever had arguments with your brothers and sisters? Well, I was there at the time, but so was I. And you both got different ideas of what actually happened or what was said. That is one of the reasons why even the past, we remember what we want to remember. And your memory of the past is much more faithful to what you call like coherence. Coherence with what you thought should happen rather than what actually did happen. You can't trust the past. So, it's a waste of time thinking about it. And as for the future, well, the Buddha said, whatever you imagine it's going to be, it will always be something different. I never expected I'd be spending all my time just telling jokes on a Sunday evening. You see, she thought it was funny, it must be a joke. But whatever you imagine it to be, it always turns out to be different. So thinking about the future is, again, a lot of it is a waste of time. So what have you left with? Thinking about the present. What are you talking about thinking about it? Just experience it. Be here while it happens, instead of having a commentary. So after a while, we investigate thinking, and we find just what pretty much a waste of time it is. It's not accurate. You never get anywhere with thoughts, you just get into more arguments. You never get truth through thinking. You just get conflict. Wisdom comes from silence. It's much better than giving a talk, isn't it? But anyway, I better do my job and answer the questions. But those are ways of overcoming thinking. And anyway, whether you like it or not, after a while the thoughts just tend to get less and less and less, all by themselves. You don't abandon thinking, just it will pass, leave it alone, don't give it energy, don't give it importance, and you will soon find the thoughts vanish. When you have been really silent in your life, you've been very content, happy to be here, don't want to be anywhere else in the whole world, just this evening, sitting down, comfortably listening to Ajahn Brahm say the same old things again and again and again. So, but I'm happy to do it. So, if you are content, you find you don't have any thoughts. Really deep contentment, deep happiness, means you don't need any thinking anymore. All thinking is a reaction to some form of suffering, unhappiness, discontent. That's why we think, to try and solve a problem. When there's no problems, there's no need to think. Woohoo! So it's going to happen anyway. You just get quiet all by yourself. So, but remember, when it is quiet, don't disturb the silence. Why do people talk? Many of you done really well being silent most of the time, and you find it's quite okay not to talk. And once you get the outside silent, then it tends to go in the inside. You don't need to talk to yourself anymore, which is what thinking is, talking to yourself, and after a while you don't need it anymore. You just be. Anyway, but there'll be much more about the thinking later on. It's one of the hindrances. I may come up with that later on, but it goes by itself after a while. I find that regardless of position, stretching, kindness, chair, cushion, my tailbone area will start to ache or hurt. So that's your tailbone area. So what can we do? Has anyone got any local anesthetic? Or that nurse, which I'm talking about in Thailand, we can just put that in there so you don't have any tailbone problem. Well, you try whatever you can do to get a few more cushions in there. Oh, I don't know what to do, but anyway, your tailbone area will start to ache or hurt. I don't know what you must have done before in your past life to get that sort of calm. Maybe you kicked a monk in the backside before, and now you've got to hurt all the time whenever you're meditating. I'm not quite sure what it is. But if you can't sort of solve the problem, leave it alone. You got an ache or a pain there, and you just... Actually, it's interesting here. The position, strategy, kindness, chair, cushion, etc., tailbone and neck will start to ache or hurt. So what you do there is stop trying to get rid of it. Thank you. Many people have got aches and pains all over them. You've just got a little tailbone, that's all you've got. That's pretty good. So just be content that you've got sort of just a tailbone aching. Anyway, at what point does loving kindness continue in trying to resolve the problem? Or is it a case where I've done enough, I should just live with it? Yeah, exactly. When does living with it become inadvisable, like a story about the fellow monk who had the double knee reconstruction? Well, he made that happen. It wasn't like living with it, it was just trying to be the tough guy and ended up getting into trouble, trying to control and force his way through the problems. The opposite of loving kindness. So just allow this body to be. So you've got a tailbone ache. Just poor old tailbone. I'm always just trying to get rid of you. Don't feed it with negativity. Say, wonderful, at least that means I've got an ache in my tailbone. That means I will have no problem at all with sloth and torpor during the meditation. I'll always be awake. So a wonderful thing. Always try and find something good about it. And after a while, the more you worry about it, the more you feed it, the more you give it energy, and then eventually it gets worse. Dear Ajahn, my mind is fast and wandering. How do I slow down or stop the thoughts? If you try and slow down and stop the thoughts, they get worse. So, there was the old story of when I was in this forest monastery over in northeast of Thailand. Every morning during the cold season or the hot season, they would take the water buffalo out to graze. And they used a path right next to the monastery, and I saw this myself many times. Sometimes the water buffalo will get afraid, and when they did, they'd always lift up their head. There's always a sign that they were just spooked by something or other. Sometimes it was monks. I don't know why they were spooked by monks. We figured out maybe the colour, they didn't have good eyesight, and maybe they thought it was a tiger or something. But in this particular case, the farmer was taking the water buffalo, just gently just going out there, and then the water buffalo spooked and lifted its head up, and the fellow had like a string, like a cord, which was around the water buffalo's neck, and he tried to restrain the water buffalo to hold it back. And the farmer should have known better. Who is stronger, the water buffalo or the farmer? There was no contest. The water buffalo won. And he took the top of his finger off. And because it was outside a monastery, he saw this guy coming in, and just blood everywhere, and a little bone sticking out of his finger. It looked really gross. So he just bandaged it up as possible, took him to the hospital. So, he got sort of sewn up, and the antibiotics. So, the farmer just had this little bone sticking out of his finger. Really helpful to, scratch the ears and stuff like that. So it wasn't all sort of, just a loss. You always see advantages in everything. But anyway, that we use that so often. Look, who's stronger, your mind or your will? So stop it. Don't sort of run away. And you end up losing a finger, metaphorically. So your mind wants to wander away. Off you go. Have a nice time, mind. Because what happens when the water buffalo runs away, because it gets through, it only runs about 100 meters, a couple of 100 meters, and then it stops. And all you need to do is then gently walk after it, and then you just grab the rope and just lead it away when it's calmed down. That's how you use water buffalo. And the same with your mind. It wants to run away. Off you go. You can run away if you want to. And then eventually you can just bring it back. A Brahm story. When I was my sixth range retreat, it was the same monastery where I got to love the smell of bat poo. It's a nice cave there. It's absolutely idyllic monastery. Up in the mountains, so it was cool. And it was right in the middle of a tea plantation. And that was like heaven for Ajahn Brahm, born in England. Wherever you look, you see beautiful tea plantations everywhere. It was cool, much tea as I wanted. And even better, the people there, they weren't interested in learning Buddhism or meditation. All they wanted to do was to feed me and offer me tea. That suited me fine. And I asked, it was an abandoned monastery. No one was there. So where's everybody else? And they said, this is too quiet for most monks. I thought, wow, what a brilliant find, this monastery in the north of Thailand, up in the mountains. So this was just perfect. And so, a couple of weeks, just enjoying settling in there, another week or two, meditation really going well, and then another week, and it started to fall apart. And another week, and I started almost, couldn't stop my mind from thinking. Started really getting restless. And the more I tried to stop my mind from thinking, the worse it got. And soon I started thinking all weird ideas. That old girlfriend, I was only about 29 at the time. I wonder if she's still available. No, stop it, Ajahn Brahm. You like being a monk. And then, this other girl, she was not. No, stop it. And all the time I tried to stop these thoughts coming in my mind. They kept coming in with more force. And I think many of you appreciate what it's like when you really try and stop the mind and it keeps coming in. It got worse and worse and worse. And I never had anybody to talk to. I was monastery by myself. So it got so bad one afternoon or one morning, just after lunch, and I thought, this is hopeless, going crazy. I could not stop my thoughts. So I went to I always have a big Buddha statue there, so I bowed 3 times and asked for help. I don't believe in that sort of stuff, but when you're desperate, you try anything. And just a thought came up in my mind, a solution. Do a deal. And the deal was that I'd watch my breath for most of the day. But from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. every afternoon, I'd let any thought which wanted to come in, I would let it come in. I would not prohibit, not restrain anything. It was my sexy thought time. Whatever came in. If you want to think those sorts of thoughts, 3 to 4 p.m. every afternoon, anything goes. The rest of the time you behave. That's what I thought a deal, balance. If that's what you want to do, you can do it 3 to 4, but the rest of the time you behave. That was the only thing I could think of. I was desperate. You know what happened? It was just as bad as usual. Just all these thoughts coming in, trying to get them out. Come on, I'll think about you later on. 3 to 4 p.m. But then when it got to 3 or 4 p.m., you know what it's like when you fight your mind. You're just exhausted. And that's what I felt. I just leaned up against the wall, put my feet out. Okay, mind. 3 o'clock now, you can think whatever you want. Sex, romance, stupid thoughts, anything, off you go. And for the next 1 hour, I watched every breath without missing one. It was so easy. It's not what I expected, but I learned so much from that. It didn't make any sense at all. Why is it when I tried to restrain my mind, it misbehaved, but as soon as I let it be, no sexy thoughts came up at all. It was just watching the breath go in, go out, so easy. Taught me a great lesson. Ajahn Chah taught me that so many times before, but I was too stupid to understand. When you try and control your mind, you feed the anger-eating monster. Get out of here, you don't belong. When you let the anger-eating monster in and just come in, you can be in here with me. My mind is big enough for everybody. And then your mind relaxes. And the very cause for all those thoughts was taken away. I was just content, being whatever happens, fine by me. Then you are very peaceful. There was many experiences like that where I knew that fighting the mind just fed the restlessness. Just let it be. Open the door of your heart to this moment, whatever it is. Unconditional mindfulness. Unconditional, whatever thought comes in. Well, you're planning how you're going to kill Ajahn Brahm tonight. How you can get the keys and find the chainsaw over in Bodhinyana Monastery and creep up at the night time. If you try and stop that, it gets worse. Okay, crazy thought, you can come in. And it soon just vanishes away again afterwards. So all of those thoughts, what feeds them? Why are you thinking? So, understanding why you have restlessness, please go back to the peaceometer. What makes you peaceful? Just relax, let go. When you're peaceful, then the thoughts get less and less and less. So if you're still restless, it means you're trying to watch the breath or do something. Just watch the old peaceometer and find out how to be more calm. Would you consider doing a guided meditation? I have watched it on YouTube, but would benefit from a live performance. I'm sure many others would too. Thank you. I consider everything. People keep on asking me, when can you go to Sydney again? When can you go to Melbourne? When can you go back to Indonesia? And I said, I'll think about it. Because, you can't lie as a monk. You can't make if I make a promise, I have to keep it. And if I say no way, then you keep hassling me until I give in. So I say I'll think about it. And there's some invitations I've been thinking about for about 6 years now. So I'll think about it. Look, there's many of the guided meditations. You can share them. You can get them from someone and just do it yourself. Live performance? What do you mean live? Can you recommend a good way to deal with thoughts that come up during meditation? You already did that. What do? I observe the thoughts without engaging with them until they disappear on their own. Is this right? Yeah. Why not? The other way is, if you get too much thoughts, like have a lobotomy. That's to take part of your brain out. Stop encouraging me. That doesn't really work, does it? So, after a while, you find out just to be peaceful. Another way of overcoming the thoughts is actually just to do more listening instead of talking. And I mean like listen with your ears when you go out and go for a walk. Because you can't really think and be listening at the same time. Really listen, deep listen. The other thing, feel in your body. You scratch your ear, feel it. You move your legs, feel it. You go out and don't wear socks in this place. It's not that cold. So when you go back to your room, you can feel the sensations of your feet on the concrete or on the bamboo in your room. You feel it. You really get sensitive because physical feelings they're so interesting and incredible, and you can't really give them names. An example of that, can you feel the pressure of your butt against a cushion or chair right now? Describe that to me. It's called butt feeling, but what does that mean? You haven't got vocabulary for many things. When you haven't got vocabulary, you can't really think about it. You need the sort of the names before you can start thinking. So that tends to stop your thinking. You just feel. You get used to feeling things, hearing things, tasting things without giving things names. I used to, one of my hobbies when I was young was astronomy. So I started learning the names of all the constellations and the stars and stuff. And so, when I was at university, I remember, being a member of the Astronomical Society and just all these wonderful lectures. But then I found I could go outside at night and I could never see the stars. All I could see was the names. And I realized at the time that was just missing out so much. It took me years to deliberately forget what those stars were called. So now you can just go out at night time. Maybe if it's a beautiful night later on during the week, just lay on the stupa and just watch the stars. It's absolutely gorgeous, here, because Australia, it's not too cold, not too warm at night, and the stones of those stupas outside, they soak up the heat during the day. So you can lie on them at night time and just watch the stars. But don't give them names. Don't figure out their meaning. That's more thinking. Just enjoy them. So it took me a long time just to be able to see without giving things names. So that's another way of being silent. Allow the beauty of nature, about the feelings being here, to actually overcome the obsession with giving things name and working out what it means. Dear Ajahn Brahm, once when I was meditating, I had the vision of myself in about 6 different stages. First as a baby, then gradually growing up, and the last stage was exactly how I am now, smiling and looking at me. I felt very happy after that sitting. Does this mean anything, or is it just the mind playing tricks? Thank you, much metta. All it meant, the meaning of that, was that when you were meditating, you saw yourself as a baby and then growing up, and exactly as you are now. No real meaning, but good fun. Why does everything have to have a meaning? Can't you just enjoy it without trying to think what it means? Sometimes you wonder just, why is it we always want to figure things out? It just makes us more and more and more tired and exhausted. Experience it, enjoy it, and let it figure itself out. When you see bright lights during your meditation, I say, thank you, mind, and it's good enough. Is that method all right? It's good enough to me. You see bright lights during your meditation. And many people listening to that saying, oh, why can't I do that? I'm a nun, I'm a monk, I wish I could do that. Unfair. These people, they just come in just for 9-day retreats and they get all this good stuff. It's great. Why do you want more? When you want something more, you can't enjoy what you already have. It's incredible, isn't it? Just why do people keep wanting more? It always means you have to work and struggle and strive. So, you see a bright light? Amazing, enjoy it. So, is it good enough? Of course it's good enough. So, as we just chanted, this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness. ... I won't do the nun joke this evening. That let you be contented and easily satisfied, not proud and demanding in nature. Contented. Oh, I've seen a beautiful light. Wonderful. Oh, that's good enough for me. And you're contented and satisfied, not demanding anything more. Oh, this is good enough. And with that sort of attitude, wham, really big lights come up. Oh, this is nice, fine. Wham, jhanas. Oh, I got a jhana. Oh, that's very nice. Wham, stream winning. Wham, the whole works come up. Enlightenment is what happens when you don't want it. If you want something, then you're just agitating your mind. So, just be content. And then everything comes to you. I feel complete darkness when I'm aware of the inner speech and the feeling of breath disappears, but not for a long time. How can I be aware of my inner speech further? Complete darkness when I'm aware of the inner speech and the feeling the breath disappears. The inner speech, it's the inner silence is much more important to be aware of. So I don't really understand the question too much, but the inner silence, when you're listening inside and everything goes quiet. Sometimes the darkness, all that may be just the way you perceive nothingness, emptiness, things vanishing. You can't see anything. And then, after a while, you can't hear anything either. Silence at last. If I don't get the questions right, please you can write them again tomorrow. Have another go. Give me another try as well. You know, even if you do some examinations, you do a driving test or an English test, you always get a couple of goes. So give me a couple of goes if I don't answer the question correctly. And maybe you can do some chanting for me, because this Malaysian girl, you know, she's a classic case. I think 16 times she failed her English as the second language test. You know, for the visas, you know, I think it's the ELS it's called. Is that right? But anyway, that if you're applying for a permanent resident visa or for permanent resident visa, you've got to do an English test. And she's a smart kid, but 16 times she failed that exam. And then she came up to me and said, Ajahn Brahm, what should I do? I said, take it again, but this time, let Ajahn Brahm do some magic chanting for you. And I did the magic chanting for her. And you know what happened? She called me and said, Ajahn Brahm, I can't believe it. I passed. You know what I said? I told you so. So you see, if I don't get it right first time, you do a bit of chanting and who knows? Anyway, do you believe in the magic chanting? You don't? You skeptics. You know, sometimes there is some effect to chanting. I was a scientist, okay? So the evidence-based, but you know, sometimes it does actually work. And sometimes, you know, how much of that, I've seen it work. Say for the Australian cricket team, they're chanting, Aussie, 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 go, 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 Aussie, 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 go, go. And it works. It does. I mean, just sometimes you get people behind you and it works. Oh, this time, okay, here we go, story. Yes, I almost got into really big trouble once. Actually, trouble comes to me too often. I don't know how I get away with it. But anyway, this time, it was a cricket match between Australia and Sri Lanka. This was at the WACA, the old cricket ground in Perth. And it was a one-day match. If you know cricket, so they had the first innings, and Sri Lanka, I think they were batting first. They didn't do very well at all. So they're in big trouble. So you know what? They said, any good monks in Perth? I said, he's this Western monk over there, and he's in town today. So they sent a couple of the boys to see me to get some emergency holy thread. You see, you've got some holy thread on you there. Could you just hold it up so they can see it, the white thread on your wrist? You've got some on, yeah. See this, the thread, that's the holy thread, Pirit thread. So, in Thai-Sin, so anyway, so I quickly I know cricket, I used to watch a lot of cricket, never played it, that was too much like hard work. But anyway, so I made 12 pieces of holy thread, and I gave it to the boys to give to all the Sri Lankan cricketers. And they lost. that was okay, because, they're too late. They should have got it at the beginning of the match, not the halfway. But that was only the practice for the World Cup cricket tournament. And every Sri Lankan knows what happened, because they had a final between Sri Lanka and Australia. And it was the first time Sri Lanka won a major international competition. Sri Lanka beat Australia in the final. And you can imagine how Australia felt. They just loved their sport so much. And imagine how Sri Lanka felt. They were celebrating everywhere. And the captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team, Arjuna Ranatunga, still remember his name because I saw him, the big picture in the newspapers on the front page the following morning, holding up the World Cup cricket cup. And that's when I thought, oh my goodness, I saw the string on his hand. That was my string. And I was the reason why Australia lost the cricket match. I kept that quiet for so many years. Otherwise, they would have taken away my passport. Because you can take away for terrorist activities. That's worse than terrorist acts. making Australia lose the World Cup cricket. So it works. China's really powerful. But of course, this is the other story. And again, when I got into big trouble, because this one I couldn't hide it. The story when I think I told this during the interviews. I don't think I told it here about the Chinese man. Yeah, the interviews I told this. There's a Chinese gentleman in Royal Perth Hospital 2 or 3 years ago. He was dying. He was in a coma. He was on the way out. So the family had all arrived together, and they, one of them knew me, said, "Can you please do some chanting for our, uncle or grandfather, whatever, because he's in a coma in the ICU." So I went there, very kind monk, and saw him in there, and they said, "Can you do some chanting for him?" I said, "Okay." And I know sometimes, you're really on form, you really got your power going. You're really just full of sort of, energy, and so I zapped him and zapped him, metaphorically speaking, with my chanting. It worked, amazing. He came out of the coma and he started recovering. It's a miracle you'd think, but the family was so angry at me because they'd already arranged a funeral. They'd taken time off work and business, coming over from Singapore and Hong Kong, I don't know where else from, for his last few days of life. And they really scolded me. Ajahn Brahm, we didn't want him to get better, we wanted a peaceful death. And now you've come along, and now we've all got to go back home again, cancel the funeral, a lot of money wasted, and we're going to probably come back another 6 months when he dies properly. I never got any donation for that. But I learned, what I learned is whenever I go to the hospital these days, I always ask, what chanting do you want? Die peaceful or get better chanting? Not my fault, you should have told me. So be careful, you want any blessings, I ask you, what do you want? Which one? Don't blame me afterwards. But anyway, you learn from my mistakes. But anyway, it's good fun. So anyway, okay, that's another thing there. So anyway, you do so some chanting works okay. Anyway, can you please elaborate on how to be kind and gentle to stray thoughts? Ah, poor stray, like the stray cats. You ever seen a stray cat? You give it something to eat and give it some milk. Poor stray cat. No one loves them. That's why you're always kind to the stray cats. Or just like the story, I usually tell this at the end of the retreat, but here it comes now. Just like the story of the spider. There was a spider and made a nice little web in the corner of somebody's house. And they made it in a nice corner of a cottage somewhere. And as soon as it was finished, it was really a perfectionist spider. It did everything just beautiful, just right. And it was such a beautiful web afterwards, that architecturally it was way up there. If there was a book called Homes and Gardens for Spiders, it would be on the front cover. That's how just amazing that spider web was. But you know what happened as soon as it finished? After all that hard work, sat in the middle of the web. Someone who lived in that cottage got a broom and smashed it to bits. Because they don't like spiders. And that poor spider had to run for her life. Just really was very close to losing its life and being squashed as well. So ran to the cottage next door and built another web. Imagine that, you built a house and it's destroyed and you've got to do all that work all over again. But it needed a house, so I built a nice web, and then somebody came and saw that too and destroyed it. And remember, it hadn't eaten anything yet. Went to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. After about 7 cottages, it realized it's never going to have a place to stay. It's going to be homeless for the rest of its life. And the poor old spider started getting very depressed. As you'd expect it to. No one loves spiders. What do I do wrong? Why don't people love me and respect me? All I do is have a tiny little corner of a room, and I actually catch things. I catch bugs and flies and mosquitoes. I do a service for you. Why can't you just let me just a tiny little corner so I can just rest and relax and have a nice home to live in? No one loves spiders. It thought of going to another cottage to build a nice little web, but by this time it had what we call post-traumatic stress. Every time it thought of a corner of somebody's room, it started to shake uncontrollably with fear. It had been traumatized by so many brooms. It was hungry, homeless. No one loved it. It was hopeless and homeless. So poor little spider was walking down the road, getting more and more depressed, until it just passed that line from depressed to suicidal. It was suicidal spider. So suicidal spider said, what's the point? It's better to die. So it tried to crawl under people's shoes on the sidewalk. But every time it crawled under somebody's shoes, it always got that space between the heel and the sole, so it never got squashed. So I decided to cross the road, the busy road, but always between the ties, never underneath them. when you're suicidal, you can't do anything right. So it was just gave up even trying to commit suicide. The suicidal spider, depressed, was staggering down the path like some sort of drunken person, not knowing really where it was going, depressed, fed up, unloved, hungry, homeless, cold. You know what it is like sometimes? You're walking down and you feel that somebody's actually watching you, looking at you. And that's what it felt, that something was actually staring at it. So it turned around, and there it was, the fattest, jolliest spider you've ever seen, just looking at it. And the fat, jolly spider said, "What's wrong with you?" "Oh, I'm so unloved and hungry." And the suicidal spider told the short story of its really painful life. And every now and again, the fat, jolly spider got out a tissue and gave it to the suicidal spider to wipe its eyes. When suicidal spider had finished its really depressing tale of its short life of rejection and hunger and lack of love and comfort, then the fat, jolly spider said, "That's so sad. Why don't you come and live with me?" And at that, the suicidal spider said, "Hang on a moment. You're fat and happy. How can that be? Didn't people try and destroy your home?" And fat, jolly spider said, "Oh no, I've only built only one web in my whole life. And it's still there. And it catches lots of food. There's plenty for both of us. Come and live with me." And the suicidal spider was just really confused. Where in Serpentine can you build a web and people never disturb you? Oh, easy. It's in the donation box of Jhana Grove. You see it in the dining room there. No one ever disturbs you there. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I tell the story to get more donations for this joint. Doesn't work, but anyway, it keeps the spiders happy. Where did I get onto that from? Okay, this was about, keeping a stray thought. That's a stray spider. State of mind that we should be in as opposed to mental actions. You're talking about the state, watching it as it comes. If yes, it then goes away pretty fast, but it feels like I'm not being kind and gentle. Oh, a stray thoughts. Just be kind to them. Yeah, they come and go. It's not your business how fast they come, how fast they go. Just be kind to them, let them be, and they disappear by themselves pretty soon. Ajahn, I enjoy doing the Buddha meditation along with the breath because the syllables are simple. I've been infusing into my everyday life, e.g. while working and commuting, and it lets me connect to a source of peace in all situations. Is it good to sustain Buddha all day? Should I focus 100% on what I'm doing at the moment? That's when you're breathing in Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. That works okay. Except you have to be careful because there was an old monk, Ajahn Juan, told me this story a long time ago. He lived in Putok Monastery, that was in the far northeast, about the monk who was walking through the jungles of Thailand. I don't think I've told this story for a long time. You're walking through the jungles of Thailand, and if you're just on this wandering, they called it Tudong in those days, that you'd always go to the village to check in with the headman of the village, and then he would, so that they could expect you the following morning for alms food. So, check in, I'm a wandering monk, and they'd also tell you a nice place where you can, bathe and put your mosquito net umbrella for the night. And so he checked in with the headman, as he usually did, and the headman said, "Oh, look, it's better you stay with us in the village tonight, because there's a tiger around the village, and the tiger has already, killed, quite a few water buffalo and even some children as well. So you better be very careful. Now that the monk said, I am not afraid of tigers. I'm a forest monk. I want to face a tiger. I'm not afraid. And so this was the monk who was not afraid of tigers. So the headman, are you sure? He said, yeah. So he took them about a kilometre outside of the village where the tiger trail, you could see the tiger trail, crossed the main path. So this is where the tiger comes. Right, this is where I'm going to put my mosquito net. And made a little table for him like a bench. This is where I'm going to be here tonight, and I'm going to face the tiger. I'm not afraid of tigers or death. So he sat there, waiting for the tiger. And as the sun went down and the forest went dark, you can hear all the sounds of the animals at night time. And he sat so peaceful, so quiet. And he was also doing Buddha with the breath. Buddha. And he was going for about an hour, just really calm and peaceful. And that's when he heard a sound of an animal coming along the path. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. As it went faster. And then as it came closer, obviously a big animal, Buddha, 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 Buddha. And as it came even closer, he opened his eyes, and it was this huge tiger. And the next thing he knew, he was outside of his mosquito net, running towards the village. Not Buddha, tiger, 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 tiger. Now, there is a reason why monks are not allowed to run. And the reason is, these robes are just folded together. We don't have zips and buttons or Velcro. So as he was running towards the village, tiger, 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 no Buddha, Buddha, tiger, tiger, tiger. One by one, he was leaving his robes in his wake. And by the time he got into the village, there was no robes left. And this naked monk, and of course, because he's shouting out, tiger, tiger, everybody woke up and they looked through their windows and they saw the monk who wasn't afraid of tigers. Running through the stark naked, bare awareness, we called it. I'm telling that story. Just laughing all over his face when he's doing that. So, yeah, Buddha is okay. But don't do tiger, tiger, tiger. So, if you source a piece, and not in all situations, some situations you have to change it to something more important. For example, if you are driving me back to Bodhinyana Monastery, don't do Buddha, Buddha. Just say, there's police car, slow down. Police car, slow down, slow down. So don't always be fixed on just one way, because sometimes it's good, but sometimes you have to change according to the situation. I read one book by a well-known monk who stated it's good to have doubt or not sure moments, as it will encourage us to investigate further. I'm not sure about that. What's your view on this, and are we encouraged to investigate during meditation? Well, because I was trained as a scientist, you investigate at the end of experiment, not during the middle of it. So when you got all the data in, that's when you do the investigation. Not in the middle. Sense of touch, hearing, smell have become subdued. Some noises can be heard, but they soon far away or negligible. Sounds good. Now the battle becomes completely with the running mind. No battle. Now make peace, not war. Be kind. If you can't beat them, join them. Be a friend to your running mind. And then it doesn't move. It jumps from one stream of thought to the other without even realizing it. Should I Stick with watching them and continue? Yeah. Just don't get so involved with the thoughts. Stand back, put some separation between you and the thoughts, and then you find they're not really that important. So after a while, they're boring, and you let them go. Oh, sometimes we should always have a prize, a teddy bear for the best question. And this is the best one so far. My husband says his meditation can be so deep that he snores. Is that true? Nice one, husband. Go, Mayan. Let's go, Mayan. If you snore, you're asleep. Are there steps we should take when ending our meditation? Just do it calmly. Don't go too fast. Just relax and just allow the mind to come out of meditation. So sometimes you may have heard me doing in my guided meditations. I just give, warning, and we're coming close to the end of meditation now. Just how do you feel? How's your body? Relaxed? How's your mind? And what happened? Just like a debriefing. So that's the time I say when you investigate the end of a meditation. And one of the reasons for that, because I was meditating when I was a student, but then it came to a point when my time I spent in meditation got less and less and less. And I remember just having a cup of coffee somewhere in the world. I still can't recall where. There was a French guy I was having a cup of coffee with, and I said, I used to meditate a lot. No, not so much these days. And he said, why not? And I said, well, it just get a bit boring. He said, listen, at the end of your meditation, just ask yourself, what's the difference between when you started and at the end? And then I started doing that, and I realized there was a huge difference, because I thought I wasn't getting very far. But then when I looked, compared at the end of every meditation, what I felt like at the beginning compared to what I felt like at the end, there was always huge improvement. And that sort of motivated me to continue on and take it even deeper. Because I thought, I'm not getting anywhere. You are getting huge places. But I never really took time to look and to feel and to understand that even your so-called bad meditations are so much better than not meditating at all. If noise can be a disturbance, why don't we all wear earplugs during meditation? Actually, I do have earplugs, and I use them on the aircraft, so I can meditate. But if you want earplugs, get the high-tech earplugs, not just pieces of foam you stuff in your ears, because you don't hear anything, but they're really uncomfortable after 10 minutes. So what you have, you get them from audiologists, and a monk told me about this, and it was wonderful because they squeeze this silicone stuff in your ear hole, and then they wait for it to set, and they've got like a mold, and they send them off to somewhere, and they give you earplugs which totally fit your holes, the cavities. And once I picked them up afterwards, that this was in Subiaco, an audiologist there, they said, okay, now, because they knew I wasn't working in the mines, which is mostly miners get that, they said, now you won't be woken up by your wife. I'm a monk, I don't have a wife. That's what he said to me. But then, the first time I tried them on the aircraft, put them in there because I wanted to have a nice meditate. And I sat down there, and you know what happened? I fell asleep. I fell fast asleep. I was supposed to be meditating, but it was so quiet. I was obviously tired. And then when I woke up, because I'd been asleep, I need to go to the toilet. So I went to the toilet, and my thought was, this aircraft is so quiet. And I realized I'd still have my earplugs in. They really worked. So, that's I travel around a lot. That's, I can get a good night's sleep in an aircraft. It makes it so much better. But it's also used for meditating as well, because sometimes you go to really noisy places, so you put the earplugs in, and you can't feel them. and then you have a really nice meditate in noisy places. You don't really need it here, because it's not that noisy. But some of the places you go are really, really noisy, and you can meditate any place, any time. It's great. So yeah, if you get earplugs, get the, they're only about $90 or something when I got them, and they're such good value for money. Audiologists, the modern earplugs, they're really worth it. Some people need reminded this is a meditation hall. Sometimes like you walked into a retirement home with all the groaning and noises. I think one person woke up from the middle of a dream or nightmare this afternoon with a loud groan before they got up and left. Yes, we try to be compassionate to them, but can we please have some common sense and consideration in return? They're trying their best. At one retreat which I taught in Sydney, the first day there was a question like this, but it was much more, it was about 2 or 3 people, because there was somebody in the meditation hall, they were breathing so loudly. And so the questions were, can you please ask people to breathe quietly? And that's when I told them that gentleman has got this huge tumour in his upper nose. He's got nasal cancer. And he checked in with me when he first came here to say that doctors have given up hope on him. He's only got a few weeks to live. And he just tried meditation. He wasn't a Buddhist. Just tried meditation as the last throw of the dice, he said. When I announced that to people, no one complained after that. They're just so compassionate to him. He's trying his best. But he couldn't do anything more about that. That, he was, dying. And so for 9 days, it never disturbed anybody when they realized, his situation. So people who are groaning or whatever, they're trying their best. So, give them a bit of a break. If it's because, they've fallen asleep, whoever that was, if you really want to fall asleep, that's what beds are for. And they're really comfortable beds. We spent a lot of money and a lot of things choosing the beds, getting nice blankets for you. It's really nice and comfortable. So please, out of compassion for all the people who donated the beds, please use them a lot. So if you need to sleep, it's best to sleep in the bed. But, sometimes you make mistakes or something. You come here and you fall asleep here. Like I said, I fall asleep on the aircraft. Sometimes you don't get it right. So give them a break. But this one person, he was breathing so loudly, At the end of the retreat, I'll always remember this. I was getting into my car. Not my car, but the car which was driving me back to the airport to come back to Perth. And he was running after me and said, I've got to tell you, something strange happened. What happened? He said, I was meditating. It's always the last meditation these things happen. I don't know why. It's because people give up. They tried 6 or 7, 8, 9 days, don't get anywhere, so what's the point? They give up, and that's usually when things happen. He said, I heard a popping sound in my nose, and I could breathe through my nose. But it only lasted 1 minute, and then it closed up again. He said, that was weird. And I had this tumour for weeks, for months in there. Now it's obviously not imagination, not a CT scan, but you could actually feel the air go through after hearing the popping sound. And I thought, wow, amazing. But, I was pretty sort of negative. I thought, you left it too late. Just if you'd have come and meditated maybe 3 months earlier, maybe something might have happened. So I said, well done, carry on, see what happens. And of course, the reason I tell that story is about 6 months later or a year later, I was in Sydney, and this guy came up to me and said, do you remember me? Don't do that to me, because I have to be honest, I got my precepts, and I'll say, no, who the heck are you? That offends you. But, I've got a choice between being nice to you and lying, or being truthful and hurting your feelings. And so, no, who the heck are you? He said, I was that guy. Carried on meditating, and the tumour vanished totally away. He said, now I'm spending the rest of my days just teaching other people the meditation you taught me. It's wonderful, isn't it, that sometimes that happens. But the reason I tell that story was because he was making a noise. He needed it as best he could do. So have a compassionate heart. Whoever's doing that, they're trying their very best. So just let it be. And, get some earplugs. But the best one is compassion plugs. And the compassion plugs they're trying their best. And then you don't disturb the sound. Or like one of the monks, I always thought it was Venerable Bodhidharma. He says, no, somebody else. I don't know actually who it is now, but their brother was visiting from Europe. And their brother, the place was full up. There was no place for him to stay, the brother, but it's his brother. So he had to find some place he could stay, and so the monk said, we can stay with me in the same room. Now the monks' huts are very small, much smaller than the room which you're staying in, and this is, and it was only 2.4 by 3, standard size for the monks. And so it was really small in there. He said, well, when we grew up together, this is my brother. It's only for one night, so okay, you can stay in the same room. But I said, look at your age. I'm sure either you will snore or your brother will snore. He said, no, I've worked it all out. I will go to sleep first, so I'll be unconscious when my brother starts snoring. That was his plan. Or just like the story of this man in Singapore, that he wanted to find a nice place to stay overnight, and because there was some functions, I think Formula One or whatever it was, there was no hotel rooms anywhere to be found. So, he went hotel to hotel, and there's one cheap hotel. They said, well, we haven't got an empty room, but we've got a double room, and the fellow already in there doesn't mind sharing. On the second bed, the two singles. But he said, the reason this bed is still available is no one can stand this guy snoring. He snores like an elephant, and no one's ever been able to get a good night's sleep. He said, oh, doesn't worry, I'll be able to handle that. So the gentleman, the occupant already in there didn't mind, this other guy sleeping in the next bed. So the following morning, the new gentleman just checked out, and the manager said, did you manage to get any sleep last night? Because no one has ever been able to sleep, with this guy snoring so much. He said, no problem at all. I slept like a log. How do you do that? He said. Oh, so easy. My strategy was, once I was in my pajamas, before I got into bed, I went over to the other gentleman, gave him a big kiss on the cheek, and he stayed awake all night while I slept. That's not homophobia, okay? It's just a joke. If you know Singapore, you know how that would work. But anyway, so this was the brother, so he couldn't do that. So what he did, he thought he'd go to bed first and get to sleep first, but it didn't work as he planned. His brother started sleeping before the monk. And as soon as his brother fell asleep, just really loud snoring, just as I predicted. So I'm like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get to sleep tonight? So he's listening to his brother just snoring really loudly. And so he remembered about, the story about it's not the sound disturbs you, it's you disturb the sound. That's what Ajahn Chah used to teach. So what does this mean? So he started changing his perception of the noise. Now, European, I think he was highly cultured, and he started perceiving the snoring like the most modern, experimental, cutting-edge music. Like, modern jazz with a really amazing rhythm. With percussion was there as well, no strings, but very much like woodwind, not woodwind, like brass. And he said, he played around with that for 20, 30 minutes, and then the last thing he remembered when he woke up in the morning was just how sonorous this snoring actually sounded like. He changed his perception from something really negative to something really beautiful and melodious and sonorous. And he went fast asleep. That's how it's done. So it is, and not the noise which disturbs you, it's you disturb the noise. So it's nice to keep it quiet if possible, but you can't always avoid every noise. So if there is a noise, change your perception. It's wonderful. Whoever did that, had a wonderful sleep. Isn't that lovely? Well done. Well, that fellow got sinus cancer. He's giving it a try. We're right behind you. Actually, not right behind you, the other side of the hall. But, metaphorically, we just hope you just get better. I have heard that Thai forest monks have attained enlightenment while doing walking meditation. Can walking meditation give samadhi more than sitting meditation? Your thoughts? Look, there's all sorts of rumours and gossip. I've heard many strange tales. Most of them are Gomayang. But some are true. But look, if you do start to get peaceful while you're doing walking meditation, then walking just by its whole nature is actually quite disturbing. So stop and sit down and close your eyes. That's the best. Don't even come back here to your seat. Just meditate right there. Sit down. So, as far as samadhi, stillness is concerned, you're walking, you're not really being still. However, I was told that there was one monk who they confirmed did get into jhanas while they were walking meditation. They got so still, they carried on walking, just the body did the walking, and they just went straight into the nimittas in their mind. We know that's true, because he had all sorts of band-aids and bruises over his face. It's dangerous, because in the deep meditations, you can't feel your body. You don't know where you're going. So if you feel that you're getting into deep meditation by doing walking meditation, please ask for the motorbike helmet or cycle helmet to protect you from dangerous injuries, because we cannot afford the insurance if you sue us. If you have time, can you tell the story of the taming the monster again? Taming the monster. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow, taming the monster, because there's a few questions over here. We should try and finish them before it's too late. Could you please tell the story of the two bad bricks at some stage this week? Okay, I'll do that tomorrow morning. It's called procrastination. This is actually wisdom. Never do today what you can put off until tomorrow, because you might die tonight. It's true, you're going to die one night. So if I pass away tonight, that's 2 stories I don't have to worry about. Yay! What meditation regime would you recommend for a lay person with a busy work and social life? Daily, weekly? A rule of thumb is, how often do you eat? Do you eat weekly? You can find time to eat, you can find time to meditate. So it's like half an hour a day you spend eating, half an hour meditating. 2 hours eating, 2 hours meditating. You don't like that answer, do you? I've been experiencing a feeling sensation while meditating. The space around me feels to get much larger. Along with this, a very pleasant lightheaded feeling. Great. I remember this from childhood, something I would experience often while laying in bed trying to fall asleep. Is there an explanation or word for this? Is it okay? He's had normal crossed out. Of course it's okay. A sensation like space gets much larger. This is just the mind. The perception starts to change. You're getting really peaceful. Many times the way we look at things is so conditioned, it's so brainwashed, so tight. And now you can start to see things in a different way. Brilliant. Have fun with it. Sometimes you're sitting here and you start getting deep meditation. The body's about to sort of disappear. You've got sort of nimittas, but they're a bit complicated nimittas. Sometimes you can feel you're sinking into the floor. You're not. Or flying through the air, or expanding, getting bigger and bigger. Or Ajahn Chah exploded once. And I had that once. It was just getting really peaceful, and the body was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and somebody disturbed me. And it got stuck like this. That's my excuse. It's just a meditation problem. So please, if you feel like space is getting larger, please stop. Don't disturb. Oh no, carry on. Don't disturb anybody. Otherwise, they get stuck like that. I've got all sorts of excuses. Yeah, this is quite natural. It's just what happens when the mind, the perception starts to become free. Are arahats capable of improving their meditation further, or are they only able to reach jhanas that they experienced before becoming arahats? If so, why is this? Oh, just it's natural. They don't improve, but just things just grow by themselves. Certainly the Buddha got older and weaker, so things keep on happening, even if you're an arahat. So you reach jhanas, their meditation just develops by itself. They don't develop it. Just things improve. Or go the opposite way. In other words, your body starts to fall apart. I achieve stillness in my breath, but it gets disturbed by thoughts, and my breath becomes a bit big and ragged. Is this normal? Everything is normal. Now, it's wonderful if something wasn't normal. That'd be very interesting. I get very bored as a teacher because it's all normal stuff. Heard it before. How do I hold on to the stillness so I can disappear? Okay. How you hold on to the stillness is be in the present moment. No future, no past. Easy. Can you briefly explain the 4 foundations of mindfulness, how to use in meditation practice? No, I can't briefly. It's too complicated. I'll give a whole talk about it later on. The last question. How true that an individual can have elevated themselves to a level of consciousness to be able to see someone past future lives? I asked as I met someone with the ability who I allow her to do a reading of me. A good friend of mine actually take her reading to make decision to be together with a friend who claimed to be his past life wife. I question these readings as if it was predetermined our future, then what will come and make a difference? I also came to relate this to Buddha disciple Mangala. Does he also have psychic powers to see that the thieves that will kill him are Moggallana? And he tried to stop them but couldn't. How far can we say this is true? Thank you. Oh, this is like psychic stuff. And can you see people's past lives and your future lives? I can see your future lives. You will soon disappear from this room and go to bed. I can predict that. No, sometimes, you can see just a little bit into the future because it's obviously going to happen. And sometimes you can see tendencies happening. But it's so hard to predict the future, especially a long time in the future. Look, you can't even predict the weather tomorrow. How many people can actually predict the state of the economy? We pay all these economists to tell us where to invest and what to do with our hard-earned money. And what happens? They get it wrong. Economists, I shouldn't say that. I think there's one person here is an economist, maybe 2 or 3. But you can't predict the future. But every now and again, someone predicts something. Just This was the story. I said it this afternoon to somebody. This is my own family. Weird. I checked this out so many times. It actually happened. This was my auntie. She was actually like my mum's cousin. But, their mothers were sisters, and their mothers, my grandma and my grandaunt, only had one daughter each, so they grew up as sisters. So my mum and this lady, Auntie Opal. And after the Second World War, they were young women, so they were just for fun, something to do. They went to one of these mediums. And the medium looked at my auntie and said, "You are soon going to meet your husband," which was a bit weird and scary. But then, this is your husband's name. Now that really was freaky. And the name was Donald Wolfries. Not a common name at all. And so they thought this was just a joke. They didn't take that seriously. And a few days later, my auntie was at a dance. This nice young man asked her to dance. What's your name? "Oh, my name's Opal." "What's your name?" "Donald." "Donald what?" "Wolfries." And they were married for 50 years. Just after their 50th wedding anniversary, he passed away. It was about a year and a half ago now. And these were people I knew. And I asked her so many times, "Did that really happen?" "Oh, yeah, that happened." I asked my mum, "Oh, yeah, I was there, that happened." That was really freaky. That somebody knew the name of the person, and they hadn't met them before at all. So that was in my family history. But it's only like a few days in the future. The karma must have been so strong that, that it was almost an inevitability. So sometimes, you can sort of predict the future. But you've got to be careful sometimes, because sometimes they give you information, you totally misunderstand it. As I told that story again this afternoon at lunchtime about this fellow here in Perth. He had this very, very vivid dream. He didn't see this through a medium, but no, the vivid dreams. He dreamt of these 5 angels. And they were lining up, and they had 5 pots of gold each. And they handed it to him, 25 pots of gold, worth a fortune. And when he received the last big pot of gold, that was when he woke up. You've had those dreams before, and the first thing, the dream and reality is just hardly any difference between it. So he looked around his bedroom. He couldn't see any angels. He didn't mind that. But he was really disappointed there were no pots of gold. It was just a dream, but very vivid. And when he went down from his bedroom, he dressed and went down for his breakfast. His wife had already gone off to work. She had made him 5 boiled eggs and 5 pieces of toast for breakfast. So weird, with a number 5. So he looked at the morning newspaper, over here it's the West Australian, and he noticed it was the 5th of May, the 5th day of the 5th month. So just to see, he opened up the horse racing. Here in Perth there's a horse racing course called Ascot, named after the famous one in England. A-S-C-O-T, 5 letters. So he looked at race number 5, and he just couldn't believe his eyes. Horse number 5, race number 5, that day was called 5 Angels. And it was weird, an omen. But so what he did, he took the afternoon off work, went to the bank to keep the lucky number 5. He took $5,000 out of the bank. You only have a chance to do this once in your life. So now let's make it count. $5,000. And he went to the horse racing track, and the 5th window in line where, the bookkeepers, bookmakers, whatever they're called, he went to the 5th window in line to keep the lucky number 5. $5,000 to win, horse number 5, race number 5, 5 Angels. He knew that lucky number 5 could not be wrong, and the lucky number 5 was not wrong. His horse came in 5th. So sometimes, you just get it wrong. It gives you the information, but you misunderstand it. That's the trouble with seeing things in the future. And as for the past, sometimes people can remember the past, but do you really want to know the past? Sometimes it explains a lot of things, but sometimes makes a lot of difficulties as well. Because there's all these people these days who could regress you to your past lives. So through hypnotism, and you find out who you were before and why you're here right now. And that can be fascinating sometimes, but also cause a lot of problems as well. So one of the cases was this anorexic girl, 16 years of age. She was so thin, and the doctors, psychologists couldn't cure her anorexia. You know that sometimes I looked up what is the definition of anorexia, because people talk about it, and as soon as I looked at that definition, it was one of the definitions that you look in the mirror and you think you're fat. And I realized that's me. Well, it fits the definition. You look in the mirror and you think you're overweight. So now I know I suffer from anorexia. But this was real anorexia, just really thin and dying. So the mother took her to see this hypnotherapist. And the mother had to be with her because she's only 16 underage. So she was a good candidate. They managed to get her into a past life very easily. And what she remembered was that in her previous life, she was the younger of two sisters. And both sisters had fallen in love with the same guy. She was younger and she was plain looking. Her sister was really attractive. And so men being men, the man chose her elder sister, got engaged and married her. And the younger sister was so broken-hearted, devastated, so much that she committed suicide. And she'd been born in this life desperately. That was how much it hurt her. So pain that she took her own life. And because of that, she was desperately trying to be attractive at all costs. That was causing her anorexia. So, it made a sort of an obvious, logical explanation. But what the therapist didn't expect was the mother just going hysterical. And so the therapist had to take the young girl out of hypnosis and settle her down, then sort out the mum. What's going on? And that's when the mother said, I was that elder sister. That was me. I never told my daughter this. It's not the sort of thing we divulge. It's a secret in the family. Before she was born, I had a younger sister who committed suicide because she also fell in love with my husband. She couldn't marry him, I did. And now she's been reborn as my daughter. Couldn't be with that guy as his wife, so came as the daughter. Weird, isn't it? But very understandable. So do you want to know who you were in a past life? Sometimes it explains many things. Sometimes it's best you don't know. One life may be enough suffering. 2, 3, who knows? But anyway, I predict your next life will be waking up tomorrow morning, if not for the morning chanting, at least for the morning breakfast. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, have a nice night's sleep. Very good.